going on, guys? Liam Wetter here, and I'm going to show you a little trick we do that'll 10x the amount of time your bait's in the strike zone. We use this for walleyes, smallmouth, muskies, all species. We're targeting walleye today, but this logic really applies to everything, so stay tuned. I'll show you what we do. What I'm doing here is we're in a depth that we know the fish where we've been catching fish. And so I'm gonna stay along the shore here and keep bombing baits ahead of the boat. And then we're going slow because you don't want to catch up to your bait before you fish it. You want to be able to fish at the right speed. I don't know if this is the right species, but the theory holds true no matter what it is you're catching. But yeah, you don't want to throw behind the boat because then you get stuck, you got to turn around, but you always cast ahead of the boat and run the boat slow. This is pretty good what I have on here. Oh, just a smallie that thinks he's tough. Wow, is he ever? Look at the size of him, he's massive. But yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. I'm using a swim bait right now, the Mayor and little guy. But it's a fish and they're all doing similar things. So again, just bombing down the shoreline and then slow rolling your bait, whatever bait it is you want to fish, and it allows you to keep your bait in the strike zone the entire time. A trick that we use is that we actually put our boat into the depth we want to be in and cast parallel with the shoreline and make sure that our baits are always staying in that 17 feet of water. 17 feet is just an example, but we're maintaining that depth with our lure, because if you think about it, you pull out from shore, let's say, and you're casting into shore, you're throwing into 4 feet of water and pulling it out to 30. Only whatever 10% of your cast is actually in the prime strike zone. And then vice versa, if you put your boat in shallow and cast out again, your bait's not going to be in the strike zone for as long as possible. So we want to keep our baits in that zone where we know the fish are for absolutely as long as possible. We put our boat in the depth we want to fish in, and then we throw parallel. The beauty of doing it like this is that you actually make, well, I mean, you could do the math, but 1,000 more casts a day because your casts are 10 times the length. So what you're doing is your cast is 100% of the time in the proper strike zone, and instead of, you know, throwing up into 4 feet of water and pulling it back to 30, 10% of the time it's where you're actually trying to fish. You're making a ton more casts, relatively speaking, and it'll put a lot more fish in the boat for sure. There he is. Again, off the nose of the boat. The other cool thing about this is that your bait's always going on fresh ground. It's not where the boats already come from. It's the boat hasn't passed over that water yet. And if you're going with, oh, that's a nice walleye. If you're going, if you're fishing with 2 people, have both people casting right off the front of the boat, one on either side on the Mayor, and throwing a swim bait around. And yeah, if you have 2 people throwing off the front of the boat, you're keeping your baits exactly in the strike zone, exactly where the fish are, and you're also not casting over where your boat's already come from. You're always covering new water, and your bait stays in the strike zone the whole time. So just a little tip that I think you guys can implement and catch a lot more fish.